there, everybody. This is Kristin from Teaching Balance, and I am here with this week's mindfulness meditation practice. And in this last week of August, I thought I would close out the month of being gentle to yourself and really trying to bring all of that gentleness and holding on to that as best we can, and kind of bring that to I guess to some closure, you could say. And what I'm interested in doing, it's always kind of tricky for me to align a theme with the practice itself, because in some ways, practice is practice, and there's only so many ways that you can actually, change it in some form or fashion. So really, I'm more interested in embracing this idea of gentleness towards oneself in the intro, and then the practice itself will probably be pretty typical. So one of the things that I learned when I've learned since I've been on this journey regarding having a business and getting this whole enterprise going, is that sometimes it's so easy to focus on the thing that's next and the next problem or the next task to be completed. And as such, we don't necessarily take the time to celebrate our successes. And so one of the things that I read was this notion that you should really try to bring those successes, even those tiny little wins, to the forefront of your awareness, because if we don't, it's easy to forget them. And then all we do is kind of think that everything that's in our mind is always a problem to be solved, or something that we need to do differently next time, or anticipating some issue or whatever it might be, which can really kind of get us into more of that negative mindset, which I believe it actually can be really draining and make the work that we do harder. And so when we think about being gentle to ourselves, sure, it's about non-judgment and about not being harsh and, cutting yourself some slack. But I also think you need to nurture yourself in that way and feed that part of you that benefits from being fed, by really letting the goodness kind of like sink in, and really allowing yourself to feel the pleasure and to feel the satisfaction of all of the good things that we do get done all day long, whether it's just overcoming a bad habit, or whether it's just doing the thing that you're good at and celebrating that, even though you knew you were good at it and you do it all the time. You still, I think there's value in acknowledging that and giving it its moment so that it can sink in and infuse your being. So that's really the spirit of what I'm hoping we can bring to our practice today. And it's funny because when we practice, there's this philosophy that you don't want to cling too much to a particularly successful practice or a particularly mindful sit, because the clinging to, oh yeah, I've got this, like, oh yeah, I'm super present today, and kind of building up the ego would undermine theoretically the thing that we're trying to achieve, which is this kind of non-judgment either towards the good or towards the bad, this kind of equanimity and this middle way, as they say. And so while on the one hand, I'm all, yay, you go, cheer yourself on, and that sort of thing. And I do think you should do that. I also, when you're practicing, would invite you to be aware of the inclination, of course, always to be too judgmental and too harsh with yourself, but also to be aware of if you're blowing yourself up too much in a positive way too, only because it's not necessarily something you want to cling to when you're practicing. So I know that might seem a little bit like mixed messages, but I think that it is really truly about that balance. And in our regular day and our regular lives, I really feel like we are out of balance when it comes to paying so much more attention to and giving so much energy to the problems and the things that we need to work on, and not necessarily celebrating the things that are good. So on the outside, off the cushion, I think we need to push towards that a little bit more. On the cushion itself, we want to be a little more, I guess you could say, emotionally detached, and just sort of accepting of curious of whatever our experience is. So hopefully you can hold those two things at once. So let's go ahead and get started. Please, if you haven't already, find your seat. And as always, you can either close your eyes or lower your gaze. And I would invite you to begin with some of those deeper breaths. If you find that it's difficult for you to take a deeper breath, you may find it helpful to exhale as completely as possible. And then letting that inhale happen naturally. So if you do that deeper exhale, contracting the abdominal muscles, you'll get that natural, fuller inhale. And if you don't want to try that, you just want to take your deep breaths like you normally do, that's totally okay. And when you're ready, letting your breathing resume its natural rhythm and allowing your attention to rest on whichever anchor feels most easy for you to rest your attention on today. It might be just riding the wave of your breathing, noticing where you feel the breath most easily, the nose or the chest or the belly. Resting your attention on that sensation. And as I mentioned, noticing the swell on the inhale and then the gentle lowering on the exhale. Similar to those very gentle waves that we might find in the middle of the ocean. You may also choose to rest your attention on sounds. Perhaps there's a particular constant sound in the room. Perhaps it's so silent all you can hear is the ringing in your ears. Or perhaps there might be many sounds inside the room and outside of the room, coming and going. The sounds of voices or cars. Whatever your experience is in this moment, remembering that there are no good sounds or bad sounds. They're just sounds. And as best you can, trying to maintain that non-judgmental awareness, that curiosity and interest. Allowing those sounds to come to you without straining to hear them. And also, as best you can, without thinking about what's making the sound or where it's coming from or what sound will come next. And just hear the sound in this moment. And finally, you can also rest your attention on physical sensations. If you choose to, you can do a form of a body scan, scanning your body from part to part and observing whatever is observable. Or you could hold your entire body in your awareness, feeling how it feels in space, feeling gravity, feeling the contact of your clothing and the contact of the air wherever your skin is exposed. Noticing also any internal sensation perhaps. Noticing the muscles. And just observing. We're not necessarily trying to actively relax in any way. You're just noticing what's present. You don't need to fix it or change it. This is an exercise in presence and objectively being aware of what's happening. And if one particular anchor is more challenging to hold your attention, just shift to another one. It's not a problem. And as we know, your mind will wander. Something from earlier may come up, or something that you know might be happening later. A memory, a plan, a regret, a worry, an idea. All of those things will be waiting for you when you're done. But for these 10 minutes, you're making the choice to take a break from exploring those thoughts and following them. You're taking a break from that constant thinking and evaluating. And instead, you're choosing to just rest. Continuing to bring that attitude of gentleness and kindness and non-judgment towards the experience itself, as well as towards you. Letting go of any expectations about performance. Is it going well? How is this in comparison to last time? And just allowing yourself to be as it is in this moment, without thinking back or anticipating forward. So we'll sit for this last few moments in silence, and I would invite you to, as best you can, see if you can hold that awareness on the present moment, and see if you can notice your mind wandering even earlier than usual, if possible. Let's go ahead and sit silently until the bell. is 10 minutes. So thank you so much for taking the time for yourself to practice and to take this short 10-minute break. Of course, thanks for choosing to practice with me. And I hope that this idea of being gentle with yourself has been valuable for you this month. So we will see you next month and next week. And I hope you have a good one. Take care. Bye.